Hello everyone. In this class of biotechnology and genetics of paper 6, we shall discuss the topic law of independent assortment, which comes under Mendelian genetics. So, in the previous session, we already studied regarding the contribution of Mendel to the genetics, and also we discussed regarding the law of dominance, law of segregation. After that, the third principle that was proposed by Mendel is the law of independent assortment. In this video lecture, we shall try to understand the Mendelian experiment that has led him to proposing this law and try to understand this principle proposed by the Mendel. Okay, so these terms we need to be aware of before starting with the lecture. Uh, Trait means we all know it is a character, genetic character, dominant and recessive alleles. So we have discussed in the previous session. Dominant means the character trait that appears in the F1 generation, and the recessive allele does not express in the F1 generation. Okay, so alleles are the two different forms of the same gene, and F1 generation and F2 generation we all know when the parents are crossed, we obtain F1 generation. The second filial generation, F2 generation, is obtained on self crossing the F1 generation. Okay, so crossing of plants in the sense it is bringing about pollination, emasculation, all those things. So let us have a brief introduction regarding the Mendelism before starting with the law of independent assortment. As I have discussed in the previous class, 18th century efforts were going on to conduct a crossing experiment, but it is in the 19th century Gregor John Mendel conducted experiments on the pea plants. So you obtained the results after crossing these plants. Initially, he has conducted the cross including one set of characters, that was the monohybrid cross, and later on he conducted the cross including two sets of characters, that is known as the dihybrid cross. Now, so initially the character that he has considered for crossing, it is the color of the seed and the shape of the seed. He has considered plants with round yellow seeds and the plant with wrinkled green seeds. These were the parental plants that were selected by Mendel for the crossing experiments. Now, after crossing these plants, Mendel obtained in the F1 generation all uh, round yellow seeds, but on cell crossing in the F2 generation, he was able to obtain the recombinant varieties also. Along with the parental varieties, he was able to obtain the recombinant varieties also. So this has led him to understand the separation of factors that were already present in the plant. So Mendel, in his previous proposals or principles, he has told that the genetic traits are controlled by factors, and these factors, they exist in two forms, that is dominant and recessive form. And so after this experiment, Mendel concluded that the factors get separated, and this separation of the factors, it is independent of the other factor. Okay, so each gamete gets a separate factor which is not going to be influenced by the other factors. Students, we shall try to understand this with an experiment. So before understanding the experiment, let us state what law of independent assortment states. Okay, so the law states that in a dihybrid cross where parents differ with two pairs of contrasting characters. Okay, so the two characters, for example, here we are considering the shape of the seed and color of the seed, right? So these two factors we are considering at a time. In a dihybrid cross, the inheritance of one pair of characters. So whether it is round shape, yellow color, or wrinkle shape, green color, any two factors, that inheritance is independent of the other factor that is present. That is what the law of independent assortment proposes. Now, so in order to propose this, Mundell has conducted experiments on the pea plants. The two parental plants that were selected are the plants with round and yellow seeds, and the plants with wrinkle and green seeds. Now, the F1 generation, after crossing these parental plants in the F1 generation, Mendel obtained the plants with round and yellow seeds. That means the dominant, so he has concluded the dominant varieties in the color, it is yellow color, and in the shape, it is round. So, that was the conclusion in the F1 generation. Now he has gone for the self-crossing of the F1 generation. Now you can see here the F1 generation on self-crossing, they have produced four different types of gametes. Because they have produced four different types of gametes, we can see in the F2 generation, we have obtained four different varieties of plants. Okay, so and the plants were available, the plants were produced in the ratio of 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. That was the phenotypic ratio. So this is possible only when there are four different types of gametes. Now from a F1 plant, how could there be four different plants? It is possible only when a factor gets separated itself independently. That is the importance of law of independent assortment. So, in this example, we shall clearly understand the law of independent assortment. You can see the parent selected a round yellow seed plant, the wrinkled green seed plants. The genotypes are capital R, capital Y, crossed with small r, and small y, small y. So, because we are considering two characters at a time, so gametes are formed. The gametes carry a capital R, capital Y, and small r, small y. So, all different types of gametes, when they fuse together, they produce this plant capital R, capital Y, small y. Now, unlike the parental plant, this plant was a heterozygous round yellow plant. So now Mendel conducted self-cross between these two plants. On self-crossing, each plant, it has produced four different types of gametes, as we have discussed in the previous slide. Now, what are these four different types of gametes? You can see them here. Now, in this checkerboard, we have um, taken the gametes from first plant and the gamete from second plant on self-crossing. These are the results obtained. Clearly, you can see here about nine varieties of plants. They are round yellow, and three varieties of plants. They are wrinkled yellow, and three round green, and only one wrinkled green. So, in this ratio, in the F2 generation, Mendel obtained the plants. Now, so this clearly shows the inheritance of capital R, small r is independent of the other two factors that are present. Okay, so because of that independent nature only, we were able to obtain four different types of gametes, and we can clearly see here these factors controlling the trait, color, shape of the seed, and color of the seed. They are not linked. Because they are not linked, they were independently getting separated, leading to the phenotypic ratio. Now, on understanding the Mendelian principles, two important crosses come to picture. One is back cross, and another is a test cross. So, what is this back cross and test cross? Now, once we cross the parental generation, if we are crossing the F1 generation with the parental generation, that is known as a back cross. If the back cross is done with the recessive parent, that is known as the test cross. We shall see what it is. Now, this is a back cross. You can see this is the F1 generation. Now, we are crossing the F1 with the, this is dominant parent, this is recessive parent. So, if we cross with this is back cross. The cross with the recessive parent, this one is known as the test cross. Okay. Now, test cross is helpful for us to understand the genotype of the specific plant that we are obtaining in the F1 generation. Okay. Now, if you conduct the test cross for dihybrid cross, Now we are considering two factors here, two traits here, shape of the seed and color of the seed. Now again, we obtain, because we are taking the F1 round yellow plant, we obtain four different types of gametes. Again, you can see here formation of the four different gametes. This shows us the segregation of one factor is totally independent of the other factor, right? Now, let us go back. So you can see here for 1:1:1 ratio, this ratio clearly indicates as the law of independent assortment. Okay, so this is regarding the law of independent assortment of Mendel. It's a brief summary of this slide that we have already discussed. So here the Mendel considered two factors, shape of the seed and color of the seed. Parental plants were round yellow and wrinkled green. They were crossed and the F1 generation obtained. The F1 generation on self-crossing, they have obtained four different types of gametes. This has led to formation of four different varieties of plants. Here clearly we need to understand there are also parental varieties along with the recombinant varieties. Okay, so formation of the parental and recombinant varieties was possible only due to the law of independent assortment. That means the separation of the alleles independent of each other. Okay, now after going through these slides, try to answer these questions so that we'll be able to check your understanding. Okay, so this is the reference. Thank you for watching.